Well, my next friend, someone that I knew while I was in school here, and was a ball of energy then, and is still a wonderful ball of energy now. I'd like to introduce Tricia Arthur, 2000 graduate and track alumni.
I just knew that I was after Craig, and I also knew that he would do without notes. But I'm going to do it with notes. He's just that good. As Dawn said, my name is Tricia Johnson Arthur, class of 2001. That's okay, I can do short. Sorry. It took me one more year. And I ran 4 seasons of cross-country and indoor and outdoor track at Otterbein. I'm going to tell you a little story about the first 24 hours I spent on Otterbein's campus. Freshly 18 years old, I pounced into my grandparents' car to make the 3.5-hour drive to Westerville, Ohio from Louisville, Kentucky, my hometown. They had the big old boat of an old person's car, you know the car I'm talking about, so that's why they got elected to transport me with all of my stuff. Like all the other Otterbein athletes, in the fall of 1997, I arrived a couple weeks early with the intent to head to cross-country camp with Coach Lehman and, at the time, Coach Hagwitz. I dumped my stuff off and headed to the health center, where I gave my kisses and hugs to Grandma and Granddad, and off they went. Not a tear. Off they went. Off they went. There were no tears. I was way too excited for my experience. So I filled out the nurse's paperwork in the health center amongst strangers that were to become my teammates. I peed in a cup with them. We all did it. We all did it. And I lined up for the doc with them. When it was my time for my checkup, would you believe that that dang health center doc heard a heart murmur? A heart murmur. I potentially could not go to cross-country camp until I was checked out by a cardiologist. A heart murmur. But my grandparents, my only people, were 3/4 of the way back to Kentucky. A heart murmur. I may not be able to run that season, and maybe I wouldn't be able to run at all, ever. Now, you know those defining experiences when you look back, you know it could propel you in one of 2 different tracks or directions. And my heart murmur was one of those. I was a runner. Hear me roar. I got started as a 4th grader doing 5K road races. I hang out with runners. I eat lots more calories than my size body should because I run. I run when I'm stressed. It diffuses stress. I run when I'm sad to regain evenness. I run when I'm exhausted, counterintuitively, to give me energy. Now, I get that not all athletes agree that running is awesome. Raise your hand if you don't think running is awesome. It attracts a quirky sort of folk. And when my husband, but at the time new boyfriend, came to his first track meet on this very track, memories, I was in the middle of a 3,000-meter race when he turns to my family up there and says, you have to be sort of goofy to run this many times around in a circle. And, tongue-in-cheek Scotty. He's always funny like that. I think my parents didn't think that was that funny. But of course, he wouldn't get it. He was a tennis player. Sorry, Don. He was a tennis player. They stretch out their arms further to avoid running extra to get to the ball.
It's not true.
But Don says that's not true. But getting back to the point, running is my identity. My stinking email address is runnintj@yahoo.com, for goodness sake. Running is my thing. So I'll skip the details, which I hate doing because I love turning stories long, but a couple of echocardiograms and doctors later, they said that same fall that my murmur was fine and safe, and they gave me a big fat thumbs up to go on to cross-country camp a few days late. And then the world was normal again. Fast forward through 4 years of living, loving, and running at Otterbein, smelling the grass every fall. Absolutely the quintessential college experience. It was darn near perfect. Since that time, though, life has not been perfect. I have had some pretty significant life challenges to persevere through. Many of you know that Scott and I lost a son. His name is Duncan, a few years back when he was nearly 5 months old. We were blessed with a very, very sacred last day at Nationwide Children's Hospital in the ICU. That day we knew we would likely lose Duncan. He was resting peacefully, and the hospital room was filled with people nearest and dearest to Scott and me. At one point in that day, I remember inventorying. Family, of course, was mingled throughout the room. They were there. But then there was Carrie Bauer Ward, Otterbein class of 1996. Becky Fickle-Smith, Otterbein class of 1981. Nancy Nicoforo, Brent DeVore's wife, who was president at the time, a very dear friend of mine. Craig Sutherland, Otterbein football athlete, class of 1989. KK Rodenkamp, Otterbein cross-country and track athlete, class of 2000. You'll have to forgive me, because as you know and can imagine, this is a very special thing. Jeremy Lehman, Otterbein tennis athlete, class of 1999. My other son, who was an infant at the time, was being lovingly cared for by Teresa DeCenzo Reish, Otterbein volleyball athlete, class of 2002. There was Scott's and my blood family present in the room, and then there was our Otterbein family, whose deep relationships had been largely formed because of the blood, sweat, and tears of Otterbein athletics. And through the journey of losing Duncan, running was still there. And through many other life stressors since that time, running has still been there. It gives me sanity. It has been and continues to be a lifeline. So, rewinding back to my defining moment, had I been told by that pesky health center doc that my murmur would prevent me from running to hang up my running shoes, that it was the end of the road for my running days, I would have lost the very healthy force that has since kept my emotional life steady. But, there's a big but, the loss would not have stopped there. Without running, I could have survived the last 12 years. But without the friendships, i.e. family, I formed in the athletic community at Otterbein College then, University now, while running, I feel sure I would have crumbled at this point, by this point. Running was just the vehicle to build me a family. And that's what Otterbein Athletics